Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Alone with a Killer by Bill Kitson, narrated by John Lee. Foreword. March 2004. It was raining. Not warm summer rain, but cold driving rain, the sort that wets you through to the skin and chills you to the bone. She huddled miserably in the less than adequate protection of the bus shelter. All pleasure at the shopping expedition long gone. This country had its good points. A cold, wet March night was not one of them, nor was the less than adequate bus service. She had been waiting for the best part of 3/4 of an hour, getting wetter, colder and more miserable, when a passing car stopped. The driver glanced up at the sign over the shelter. "Not waiting for that bus, are you?" He indicated the destination board. She nodded, her mind too numb to form the words. He shook his head sadly. "Not tonight, love," he told her, the cruel message not alleviated by his cheery tone. "You been reading that?" He pointed to the schedule in the case alongside the shelter. She nodded again. "Out of date, love. That's last summer's schedule." "Management." His tone took on a sneering contempt. "Haven't got themselves off their fat asses to change it yet. Probably hope to leave it for another month until the summer schedule starts." "Sorry, love. Looks like you're stranded. Either that, a taxi, or Shanks's pony." Unfamiliar with the expression Shanks's pony, she guessed it meant she would have to walk. She hadn't planned on anything other than the bus ride. The taxi fare lay in carrier bags at her feet. She looked down at them and sighed. Nothing else for it, she told herself. At least the walk will warm you up, and the carriers aren't too heavy. She had reached the edge of town when another car pulled up. Normally she would have ignored it, particularly in the dark, particularly as she was in a lonely spot. But as it coasted to a halt, she recognized the occupant and relaxed. She wasn't going to have to walk after all. She was cold, wet, and tired. The rain had started again, and it wasn't as if the driver was a stranger, not a total stranger, that is. She knew him, had seen him earlier in the day. Normally the last thing she'd do was get into a stranger's car, and it was the last thing she did. February 2005. Ian Waltham stared out of the window, hoping to see her, hoping she would come striding up the gravel drive, but knowing it was not going to happen. Where had she gone, and why? He thought he and Sally were happy. What reason had she to leave? Why depart so suddenly without even taking her clothes or her passport? He'd heard of such things happening with women, but not his Sally, surely. His vision blurred with tears, and he turned away. It had been over 3 weeks, 3 long, weary, sleep-bereft weeks, and still no news. No sightings, no word. Not even a phone call or a note. The police had been of little use. Clearly they were more inclined to think of it as a domestic disharmony, or that he'd done something to her. Ian was so immersed in his thoughts that he failed to see the postman's van pull up at the end of the drive. Failed to see the driver or hear him walking up the gravel drive. The clatter of the letterbox startled him. He went to the other door and picked up the envelope, without much thought as to its contents. Even as he opened it, he had no foreboding as to what might be inside. He removed a piece of paper and unfolded it. Even when he read the message, he failed to understand it. Then he saw the photograph. Nausea threatened. He swallowed, but hot bile raced into his throat. He reached the kitchen sink and vomited. Eventually a measure of calm returned. He noticed there was something still inside the envelope. He inverted it and shook it, staring with fresh horror at what fell onto the palm of his hand. Ian groped for the phone, his eyes blurred with tears. The first of many. After some time he managed to get through to the detective handling Sally's disappearance. "I've had a packet delivered," he told the man. "There's a message inside it." He could feel his voice rising towards hysteria, could do nothing to prevent it. "What is the message?" The detective could barely make out what Waltham said. He had to ask him to repeat it, as if once wasn't bad enough. "What others created, are cremated, and," he sobbed, "there's a photograph of Sally, naked on some sort of table. But there was something else. Something far worse. Her wedding ring. I know it's hers. It has our wedding date engraved in it. The thing is," fresh tears flowed as his voice trembled, "it's been sawn in two." The final horror came 2 days later, when more photographs arrived. Chapter 1. July 2010. Sergeant Jack Binns looked up as the door opened. He was used to all manner of visitors entering the reception area at Helmsdale Police Station. A small boy, whom Binns guessed would be about 5 or 6 years old, came through the door first, holding it open for an elderly lady who was struggling to get a large suitcase through the narrow aperture. Her efforts were hampered by her reliance on a walking stick. Binns hurried from the reception desk to assist. They didn't fit readily into any of the usual categories. "How can I help you?" he asked once they were inside. His guess was that they were tourists, either seeking directions or a recommendation for somewhere to stay. Both had happened before, more than once, and it was the height of the tourist season. "We would like to see Detective Inspector Nash, please." The woman's request surprised him. Obviously his guess had been wide of the mark. "I'm afraid Mr. Nash isn't here at the moment. Can anyone else help you?" "When will he return?" Binns glanced at the clock. "He went through to Netherdale headquarters for a meeting with the Chief Constable, so it's difficult to say. An hour, certainly, maybe more. Are you sure nobody else can assist you? Perhaps if you were to tell me what it is in connection with, that might make it easier." "Thank you. But we have to see Inspector Nash. Is it in order for us to wait?" The old lady's English was impeccable, but Binns thought he detected an accent, although he was unable to identify the source. "If you wish, although I should warn you, those benches are a little uncomfortable." The woman smiled and signalled to the boy to sit down. So far the child hadn't spoken a single word. Time passed slowly. Even the normally unruffled sergeant was becoming flustered as Nash still hadn't appeared, long after the hour had come and gone. Binns had made several attempts to engage the visitors in conversation, partly from courtesy, more from curiosity, but without success. He had even tried to get the boy to speak by offering him a drink. Instead, the boy looked at his companion, who declined the offer on his behalf. Eventually the outer door opened and Binns looked up, relief obvious on his face as he saw the new arrival. "Mike, visitors for you. They've been waiting a long time." "Thanks, Jack." Nash turned to inspect the couple. The old lady struggled stiffly to her feet, leaning heavily on her walking stick for support. Nash's glance went from the woman to the child. Something about him, his blonde hair and blue eyes, the shape of his face seemed familiar, but Nash couldn't think why. "I'm Detective Inspector Nash. What can I do for you?" "May we speak to you in private, please?" "Of course, if you prefer." Nash glanced over his shoulder. "Either of the interview rooms free, Jack?" "Both of them are," Binns replied. "If you leave the suitcase here, I'll keep an eye on it." Once inside the room, they turned to face Nash, ignoring the chairs he offered them. The woman's free hand, he noticed, was resting protectively on the young boy's shoulder. The boy was clutching her leg, standing so close he was almost hidden in the folds of her skirt. His eyes were wide and fixed on Nash. His face bore an expression that could have been fearful, but was most certainly apprehensive. "What can I do to help you?" Nash asked. 40 minutes later, Binns looked up from the desk as Nash walked swiftly across reception and headed for the stairs to the CID suite. "What's it all about, Mike?" Nash continued up the stairs, ignoring the uniformed officer. Binns stared after him. "What have I done?" he grumbled aloud. "Why is nobody talking to me this morning?" Inside the CID suite, DS Mironova and DC Pierce were struggling with paperwork ensuing from arrests made over the previous weekend. Clara looked up as Nash entered the room. She was about to comment on his timekeeping when she saw the expression on his face. She stared at him as he went into his office and closed the door. "What's batting him?" she asked. Viv Pierce looked up. "I didn't notice. What are you on about?" Mike came in looking as if he'd seen a ghost and went straight into his office. That's most unlike him. He always says hello, if nothing else. Maybe God gave him a chew.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?